Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's so nice to see you all here today, and hello to our online viewers as well. My name is Grace, and I'm a product manager for Microsoft Mixed Reality, specifically focusing on the Mixed Reality Toolkit, also known as MRTK. I'll be honest, it feels a little weird standing up here right now, because just last week, I was in Boston for graduation. Yeah, I was a COVID grad, which meant I spent the last 2 years at home and had graduation a year late. It kind of sucked. But one good thing did come out of it, and that's learning how painful and draining Zoom meetings are. Has anyone here felt the same? Nice, you feel me. And during that time, how I wished I could see people in 3D or even just get the feeling that we're in the same room again. And when I joined Mixed Reality and started learning about the tech, it blew my mind. I was like, this is the future. Every one of you guys sitting in this room today, you should give yourselves a pat on the back because you are building solutions so that generations ahead will never have to face that again. And with that in mind, today I'm here to talk to you about how we at Microsoft are innovating on the mixed reality developer experience. And high level, I'll go over a few things today. I'll give an overview of what is the mixed reality toolkit. Then we'll reflect a little on the previous versions of MRTK and talk about what inspired our upcoming release of MRTK3. I'll give you guys a sneak peek at some highlights of MRTK3, and then I'll finish off with our future roadmap and plans. And then I'll hand it over to Brent Jackson over here, who's going to talk about an amazing new developer sample we have. So let's get started. How many of you guys in here have used MRTK before? Oh, nice. Wow, great turnout. I'll give a quick overview for our online viewers as well. So to understand what is MRTK and why we built it, we really need to understand the history behind mixed reality content development. So in 2016, in HoloLens 1 days, developers had pretty limited options for building content. While we're used to using Unity today for easily building immersive XR experiences, Unity didn't have nearly as robust support for those technologies back then. And so we had to build the support for devices like HoloLens and Windows Mixed Reality headsets. We had to build nearly all the tooling, the input functionality, and interaction systems. And while we were doing so, we realized that there are a common set of problems every developer faces when building an app for AR or VR. And we decided to make a toolkit of solutions for those problems. And that's how MRTK, previously known as Holo Toolkit, was born. So in essence, MRTK is a collection of building blocks for spatial interactions and rich UI. And there are 3 core pillars to MRTK. First is that MRTK supports a wide range of devices. We know that in today's XR industry, it isn't wise to target just one device or even one manufacturer. That's why we made it really easy to build and deploy the same mixed reality app to a wide range of AR and VR devices, from Microsoft to other manufacturers like Meta, Valve, and Magic Leap. Second, MRTK allows for increased development velocity and fast time to value. So instead of having to build and deploy to device every time you make a change, we offer a set of in-editor simulation tools that allows you to evaluate your app with articulated hands, eye gaze, and other types of input. So let's take a look. All this is done in the editor. And for those who do want faster testing on device, we have 2 options: holographic remoting on HoloLens and Link on Quest. Lastly, MRTK has always been an extensible and customizable platform. Because we're an open source project, we've had amazing community contributions that build on and extend the current MRTK offering. So you guys can swap out core components of the framework as needed. And so these three things, being cross-platform, having fast time to value, and being extensible, are central to MRTK's design philosophy and will always hold true no matter what version of MRTK you choose, and will always hold true as we're building future versions of MRTK. So now you've heard a bit about the background and history of MRTK. Let's talk about MRTK v2. MRTK v2 was a pioneer in mixed reality development. We were voted the best developer tool at the Augie Awards last year. We're very grateful. And this little guy is sitting in our pod watching over us as we code every day. He runs a tight ship. So when we first started building MRTK v2, there was pretty limited support in Unity for mixed reality content and interactions. And so we had to build nearly all the spatial interactions, hand tracking, and other XR input requirements ourselves. Things like grabbing an object and moving it around was incredibly difficult to do. In addition, there was no built-in XR interaction system in Unity. So MRTK, like many other frameworks, had to provide its own manipulation and interaction infrastructure. And adding on to the complexity, MRTK v2 significantly predated many modern cross-vendor standards like OpenXR. And so we had to write a lot of our own cross-platform abstractions. Despite these challenges, MRTK v2 succeeded in providing a cross-platform XR development framework, albeit with a lot of custom systems. And as a result, MRTK v2 is very feature-rich. So let's take a look. Up here on the top left is our object manipulation feature. This allows you to move, rotate, and resize a hologram quickly and easily. And on the top right is our bounds control. This allows you to configure an object to react to a user's input. So as you can see here, when this person's hand gets close to the mug, a box will light up that shows you the types of interactions you can perform on the mug. And then on the lower left is our hand menu. This allows a user to trigger a menu by flipping their hand over, and they can quickly access the most frequently used functions. And then lastly, on the bottom right is our spatial awareness feature. This provides a collection of meshes used to map the environment. So you can see here, this little box perfectly follows the wall with the help of spatial awareness. And these features are a very small subset of MRTK v2. And MRTK has been used in a variety of applications, from healthcare to education to manufacturing. The possibilities are endless. And now let's take a look at some real-life examples of MRTK in action.
Very quickly started working with the headset to identify some use cases. So when you place the headset on your head, what the user will see is a virtual screen or a mixed reality screen, which they can position into any real space in the room that they're standing in. And on that screen at the moment will be the face of one of their colleagues who will be interacting with that user through a webcam based on a desktop.
So here we saw doctors using Dynamics 365 to practice safer methods during COVID. Instead of having all the doctors present in one room, now just one doctor can be there, while the others call in from the safety of a different room. And now let's take a look at another video that shows how HoloLens and MRTK can be used to better visualize 3D content.
Medicine is in the midst of digital change. Mixed reality and artificial intelligence are already improving patient care today. Virtual Surgery Intelligence, or VSI, is doing just that. With this software solution, MRI, CT, and other medical scans are displayed in 3D in Microsoft HoloLens 2 mixed reality glasses.
Manufacturing also does a lot of great work with MRTK. So here you can see a technician using an app called Remote Assist, which is built on MRTK to help solve a power outage in a much simpler and more efficient way. So now you've seen how feature-rich and powerful MRTK v2 is. You might be wondering, why did we make an MRTK3? And the short answer is because of you, because of our community, our customers, who continuously push us to be better. We love hearing from you guys, whether it be on Twitter, GitHub, or Holo Developers Slack. Our team gets so excited when we hear from you. And through hearing your feedback, these are the main points that made us decide to make MRTK3. So when a user brings in MRTK into their project, it would bring in every single feature and component, even if you didn't need it all. So in other words, MRTK v2 was a bit monolithic and difficult to isolate into modular components. Another big limitation was the inflexibility of our UI tooling. So basic things like resizing a button or aligning an icon, things that most front-end developers take for granted, weren't really possible with our 3D UI in MRTK v2. In addition, especially on mobile devices like HoloLens, performance was often a challenge in your v2 app, especially with the large code base you had to take in. And of course, as our industry has developed, new standards, APIs, and technologies have emerged, and Unity's support for legacy APIs were quickly reaching their end of life. And so our customers needed first-class support for new standards like OpenXR. 3D UI is hard enough, but binding it to your dynamic runtime data can be even harder. And in MRTK v2, we largely left this up to the user to figure out, which was a big pain point for a lot of people. And most importantly, XR and MRTK by extension are fairly inaccessible by modern software design standards. And so users with different abilities can often find it difficult to use XR devices or applications, and we need to do better to serve their needs. And so taking a look at this list here, MRTK3 is a complete redesign, a fresh start that takes advantage of all the conveniences that Unity offers today. The conveniences that we did not have when we were building MRTK v2. So now let's take a look at some highlights of MRTK3. Like I said before, v2 was a bit monolithic, where you had to bring in all the features and components even if you didn't need it. So in MRTK3, we have a brand new architecture. We're more modular. We've broken down MRTK into many individual packages that you can pick and choose from. And these can be independently installed and updated. So now you don't have to bring along all of MRTK just to get the pieces you're interested in. And like I said before, our UI tooling was a bit inflexible and layout was hard. And so at MRTK3, we've combined our rich 3D UI with the canvas layout system. So you can make UI that's both immersive and tactile, as well as automatically laid out and resizable. Now this next slide is one of my favorites. MRTK3 builds on the strengths of others. So in MRTK3, we are all in on OpenXR, which allows us to streamline our cross-platform support story. In addition, we're built on top of Unity's input system and the Unity XR interaction toolkit, which does a lot of what MRTK v2 used to do. So now, instead of having to reinvent the wheel, we can leverage these strengths so we can focus on what we do best, which is making delightful building blocks for spatial interactions and rich UI. And now I want to talk a little bit about the design innovation that we're doing at Microsoft. So in MRTK3, we have a brand new mixed reality design language. And if you use the Mesh app on HoloLens 2, you may have seen this in some places already. And this is the result of years of research our design team has done with our community and the engineers. And to give you guys a look at the before and after, Here on the left is the original HoloLens 2 style visuals. And of course, we're not going to have a specific forcing mechanism for this update, so you can continue to use the original styles on the left if you wish. But as we build our future products, we will use and continue to evolve this new design language on the right. Microsoft also does a lot of innovation in the interaction design space. And MRTK3 is a fantastic platform for making new interactions and building applications that leverage those new designs. And because we have a brand new architecture in MRTK3, we make it extremely easy to build just about any type of interaction you can think of. So let's take a look. Here on the left, you can see a new interaction that allows you to target an object with your eyes while selecting them with your hands. And then here, you can see it's really easy to simply just make something that allows you to draw with your finger or a pen or play the piano. And the best thing is that these interactables provided out of the box are built to be forward compatible with any new input modalities you might have in the future. So this ensures that your app will continue working even when new devices, sensors, or types of applications are built in the future. And lastly, as previously mentioned, data-driven UI is difficult. And in MRTK3, we provide the tools to more easily data bind your UI, as well as offer additional theming options. So in this video, you can see here that not only is the content in this app dynamic and driven from data from the internet, you can also theme the appearance of the app at runtime. So now you've seen a sneak peek at some of our new features. What's next? So at this event right here, at MR Dev Days, we will be having our MRTK3 public preview. So right now, the code is available on the MR feature tool to download and install, as well as GitHub. And in the fall to winter timeframe, we'll be having our MRTK3 GA. And I want to emphasize, I've been talking a lot about MRTK3 here today, but we are still very much focused and committed on MRTK v2. In fact, just last week, we released MRTK 2.8, and MRTK v2 will continue to be supported until at least 6 to 12 months after MRTK 3 GAs, at which point it'll then transition to becoming community maintained. And I want to wrap up here by just saying thank you. Thank you to our amazing community who's continued to support us. We're a small team over at Microsoft who's passionate about building the best developer tools, and we welcome you to join us on the journey forward. And now I'd like to hand it off to Brent, who's going to talk about Zappy's Playground.
A few things about me. Oh yeah, this is a hot mic. I appreciate that. I really like riding e-bikes. I like riding regular bikes too. But I live on top of a plateau and I have a child. And if I want to get back up to the plateau with my child, I have to ride an e-bike. I also enjoy making music. You can see here, this is me and my son at our first band practice. The band is called Lightning and Thunder. He came up with a name, Hello Lightning. And also I'm not terrible at Halo Infinite, which is not to say that I'm good at video games as much as like, I want to give a shout out to the Halo team for their matchmaking skills. Because they connect me with other people that are also not terrible at Halo. So it's an enjoyable experience. I feel like I might win every time. I don't, but sometimes I do. I'm not here to talk to you about Halo though. If you do want to talk to me about Halo, you can follow me on LinkedIn or hit me up on Twitter. Happy to talk to you about that or bikes or music or anything, or mixed reality as well. Speaking of which, what I am here to talk to you about is this new developer sample that we've created called Zappy's Playground. And if you really look at this slide, you can probably get a lot of spoilers for all the things I'm about to say out loud. But you can see here, it is, a Unity-based sample. Well, I'm not going to spoil everything for myself. Anyway, this is Zappy. This is his playground. This is the slide where I'll spoil all those things. So why do we make Zappy's Playground? Well, we've created a lot of great getting started with MRTK tutorials. It's really easy to get going with it. But we were thinking, what about for that like kind of level 200 development? How do these things work together to deliver like a comprehensive, intuitive experience? And MRTK is cross-platform. So how do you make an end-to-end cross-platform experience that's easy to develop on top of? We have all these new components. We have stuff, there's been a lot of stuff in MRTK2, a lot of new stuff coming in. The features are listed here. I'm not going to say all of those out loud. You can read them at your leisure. But we want to show how they can work together to deliver that kind of cool experience. And also, for those of you, Grace mentioned the Hollow Toolkit earlier. Some of you may have experience with the origami sample that we delivered a long time ago. You'd actually be surprised how often that code has shown up in things in the past. It turns out people like it when we do the hard stuff that's not that interesting. And then you guys can just build really interesting, cool stuff on top of it. So we leaned into that idea a little bit and decided to make this just a great starter project. So feel free to, this is all going to be open source, free to use. Feel free to use this to kind of get started and going with it. And as you saw on the last slide, there is Unity in editor documentation. I know when I'm doing development, going back and forth between the docs online and my Unity editor, especially when I'm on my laptop and I don't have my now super awesome like at-home office setup, then I like being able to just kind of see the docs right there inside of Unity. And so how we built this, we actually partnered with Unity's professional services team. Them and the MRTK team, we worked together to build this application. Because who knows Unity better than Unity? And I guess the MRTK team, to be honest. And we focused on kind of these three areas that make up a good mixed reality experience. First, you're doing something in mixed reality, you're in an environment. It's a different environment, maybe every time, maybe not. But setting up an environment is important. So doing a room scan to make sure you have, you understand the space is key. And then there's the experience setup. Okay, now I understand my room. How do I want my experience to interact with this space? And then so, we have a section in there for kind of showing how to do that. And then finally is the actual experience, that spatial engagement. What is it that makes doing something in mixed reality unique to mixed reality as opposed to just like, Halo or something like that. And so, so what I'm going to do now, I'm actually just going to walk you through the experience of using Zappy's Playground and show you where these components light up here. We have, you can see here, there's like this little tooltip at the bottom that you gaze at. And when you gaze at it, it tells you about what the gaze feature does. So you can learn about it as you're doing it here or in the editor. The other things that'll show up here, there's little directional indicators that we're using to point you to these little gems that you stare at to help you get a good scan of your space. And then we use set up some spatial anchors there, and then use scene understanding to get a good layout of your space you're going to work in, and then also use this data binding here to surface. So I'm going to enter my name, and then later that'll show up inside the environment. And this is that initial environment setup that we're talking about. And so you can see here, you got this little tooltip. It says, gaze, it's awesome. Here's how it works. And welcome to the playground. Let's get started. And got to scan our space. Let's see what the space looks like. Here's my directional arrows that I was mentioning. Here's these cool gems. And so if there's a space that hasn't been scanned well, it spawns a gem to help guide your user who maybe doesn't understand like setting up a space to go look at it. I did do a time swipe because I didn't want you guys to like watch me scan, like 10 gems. And so now we have our space. The space we're doing here is, you can see we have the table here, and it's aligned to the walls. Where the wall was really far away, it just went ahead and closed off that wall so that we have our space to work inside of. And then, this is the hub that you can launch from. We have our turbine experience, which is where Zappy is going to show up. And but you could also have other experiences here. So if you have multiple places you want people to go, this is basically just like going to launch the next scene. But you could surface different experiences inside of this hub. So now that we've got our environment set up, we need to set up our experience. In here, we're going to showcase surface magnetism, spatial audio. There's an opportunity if you want to use Azure Spatial Anchors to save your state to the cloud, you can. And then also, you guys all know about UI follow, the little thing on the top right, probably. But we surface a tooltip for that there as well. It just kind of, we don't show it everywhere it shows up because that would get annoying. But this is a good place to surface that information. So we have this window, and we want our experience to be based off of a wall. This is a wall-based adventure. And what we did, we used the scene understanding to find the largest wall in the space and put it in the center of the space at the height that we wanted. And so all that kind of happens on the back end, and we suggest it to the user so that they know, okay, well, that's kind of the space that I need to have a good experience. And here's a little buddy, Zappy. And you can't tell because you're just watching a presentation, but you can hear him out of the corner of your ear and locate where he is. It was actually with those gems as well. The directional arrows and spatial audio is used there to help you land to the right space. And now our windmills have come raining from the sky. I don't know what they were doing in the ceiling. I didn't actually ask that in the development, but they do fall from the ceiling. It's random. If one had fallen over the table, it would have landed on the table, which is a unique thing that you get from that scene understanding. There's only one other interaction that's showcased here, so I'll go ahead and start playing. It actually works. Hey, thank you. If anyone else has problems with their laptops, let me know. Happy to help you out. So now, one thing that I discovered here I was not aware of, that I could pick up 2 windmills at the same time. I didn't know this until I started playing with the experience. So he's excited. I got some he sees me collecting the windmills for him, so he's giving me a little feedback to let me know he's excited. I made it go a little faster because I didn't want you to have to actually watch me collect all the windmills. Yes, so there we go. Windmills are in place, ready to open the window, see what happens. And it turns out one reason you should not drop windmills from the ceiling is because they might break. And so now we have to fix our windmills, and we get some feedback that these are broken. The things you're going to see here are the hand-constraint palm-up menu, which some of you should be familiar with. One interesting thing here, as we were building this, we used this to put developer tools in there. And so we were like, okay, we should just ship that anyway because it's really convenient as you're developing to have your developer tools right inside your Palm menu. You can also control theming from here, as you can see, if you want to change that. And then we have we listed all the things that you can do in here in case you're curious, if you don't want to wait and try and find where was the UI follow. So you can pull your little windmill pieces out here and place them on the windmill to get them fixed. I know we only fixed the blades, but it is actually random. This time it just happened to choose all blades. And so now we've got those in place. Zappy's excited. We've got 5 more to go. But the wind's coming through and these windmills aren't all turning. And so we can use balance control to turn the windmills to be facing towards the wind. And that's why this is also technically an educational sample, because you learn about winds and wind farms and all that stuff. So you can see here, you can grab the bounds, grab these bounding boxes around them, turn the balance control, learn about bound control, and also use UX controls here. We built this dashboard. It's all UX controls. Anything can be a controller inside of mixed reality MRTK3. Zappy's powered up. He's getting super excited. Oh, hello. Who is this friend that showed up here? Is that Zappy inside of a Quest headset? I believe it is. Yeah, and the theme of being cross-platform, we also made this work on Quest. So if you are a developer that is coming to HoloLens from HoloLens development, we got you covered. Easy to do. If you're coming from Quest and you wanted to build on Quest, got you covered there too. It's the same experience, slightly differently. Obviously, this one comes with a furnished room. Or if you're just new at coming to mixed reality and you want to target Quest and HoloLens, this is a great sample to get started to learn how you can do those things, what the differences are and what's going to make for a great experience, both inside VR and also on HoloLens. I did get a little distracted when I was filming this video and checking out the cool tech art stuff that our friends at Unity Professional Services made for us. One of the rewards, these pop up throughout the whole thing, but at the end you can see all the different features. I think there's 13 that we pieced together to build this application, to have that comprehensive, intuitive game that you can play. I will say Zappy does get a little upset when you restart the experience and sends energy back to the wind farm and breaks his windmills again. So now you get to go fix the windmills again and give him juice again. If this is something that you think would be interesting to check out, or if you want to check out MRTK3, then you can try them out today. Go to aka.ms/MRTK3 or aka.ms/zappysplayground and check it out. Thanks. We are going to do some Q&A now, but I am also I'm going to ask the first question because we have a special guest here, Bruce Burnham, who is from Unity's professional services team, engineering manager for Unity's Applied Solutions. He built this on top of MRTK3 while we were building MRTK3 and generally without documentation, but with our help. And so, yeah, right, thank you. I wanted to ask him about the experience of developing on top of MRTK3 to give you some feedback that's not coming from someone that might be, a little on the side of MRTK3. Go ahead.
Yeah, so hi, I'm from Unity with the Accelerate Solutions team that helped build this solution out for introducing Zappy. And it was much easier to create this experience with MRTK3 instead of 2. It allowed us to do things like use our own scene management instead of actually relying on the one that's provided by the MRTK system, so that it allowed us to introduce things like additive scenes without it complaining about needing to integrate it into all of our different scene management systems. As well, going from the HoloLens experience that we built and building it for Oculus Quest was really fast and seamless. We were able to build out with just adding in the environment, adding in things like the updating the UI just slightly to do some layouts, but that was pretty much about it. Everything else just worked right out of the box.
All right, you heard it from a third party, so you know it's actually worth checking out. Let's see. Anyone else out there have questions? I see one right there. Let's see. He's going to bring a microphone so that our viewers that are dialing in can hear as well.
Will Fleming, thank you for taking my question. What version Unity?
I believe we have this on, we're shipping this on 2020.3.35.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sean Ong. Great presentation, by the way. I have a question for performance. Did you face any challenges getting this performant running at 60 frames a second on the HoloLens? And if so, what tips or tricks or sacrifices did you have to make?
I didn't, but I'll ask Bruce if he did.
There wasn't a lot that we needed to work with on that one. We made sure to make the environment and all the pieces that we're going to be using very simple. And then when we went to the Quest, we were allowed to actually expand it a bit more and have it with the full environment and so forth. But yeah, it didn't require a lot of effort on our part to optimize for that particular aspect.
I will say, you should note that I did capture all that video from the HoloLens too, and it actually performed pretty well while I was capturing it, which is always a good sign. All right, anybody else? There we go.
Bye. Thank you. Are there any updates to the spatial mapping, and is our QR codes going to be supported by it? Are there any updates to that?
Hoff, do you want to answer that question?
As of the very first version, for this first version, the spatial mapping is as it was before, so there aren't any improvements to that. Similarly with the QR code capability, that's all on device and also as a separate loadable module, that's all the way it used to be. So I think the answer is not yet, but if you have any needs that aren't being met, let us know. We're always trying to figure out what to do next.
Hoffman, engineering lead for MRTK.
Sounds good, thank you. I was actually wondering more about like large spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, are you familiar with World Locking Tools? That's another open source project that you definitely should be looking at. It is designed specifically to solve some of the harder challenges around, the issues of rotational accuracy, where the further you get from an anchor, the more you have rotational accuracy challenges, and it does a conglomerate. It does an algorithm across multiple anchors and is managing all of it for you. You basically drop in one component and it does all the heavy lifting for you. If you don't know about World Locking Tools, I highly recommend pulling it off of GitHub and trying it out.
All right, we got one behind you over there. Also, great thing about presenting in person at Microsoft is that we're all here. And so, make sure if you have any other great questions, hit up Hoff and the rest of the team.
Great presentation and really like the demos. Could you talk more about the transition from MRTK 2 to 3 for already existing applications?
That's also going back to Hoff. Here, Hoff.
Yeah, very good question. In this private preview, that is not, we're now in public preview. In this public preview, we are not specifically addressing that. We are actually doing a lot of research right now on how to best make sure that that's an easy process. At an absolute minimum, we're committed to really good documentation. We're also, our team is doing everything they can to figure out any way to automate that, to the extent that we can figure out there's a causative relationship between the way you used to do it and the way you should do it in the future. We're going to try to figure out how to automate that. But we're still in the early phases of that. One of the cool things is we're actually currently applying that to existing V2 apps that we have available to us. And we're actually doing that process right now and analyzing what's hard about it and making sure that we are addressing that path. And like I said, absolute minimum, we'll have really good A to B documentation so that you know exactly what you have to do.
Thank you.
You can come hang out on stage with us if you want, Hoff. All right, anybody else? There we go, up front.
Hi, thanks. I was looking at, the example that you were showing, building something on top of not having any documentation ready, the example that you guys were demonstrating. I'm guessing that a lot of collaboration is needed with the Mixed Reality Toolkit team and the other developers. So my question for the rest of the developers in the room and myself, what will be your suggested or the preferred channel to get this kind of collaboration with you guys? How can we reach you directly?
I believe Twitter. Well, do you know all the actual handles for the Twitter and GitHub and Hollow Tool or? Yeah, the Slack Hollow Developers channel is a great way to get feedback. That's probably the most active one, but you can reach out on Twitter or GitHub as well.
Terrific.
We check the GitHub discussions
for our friends at home.
Yeah. We check the GitHub discussions every single week. It is part of our weekly triage. So we are definitely always looking at what the community is discussing there, and we make a commitment to responding to the inbound. Admittedly, we've been heads down for the past year on MRTK3, so it hasn't been quite as active, but our team is absolutely passionate about the community and committed to addressing. If you ever have trouble reaching us, Hollow Developers is a good place to go. And then, throughout the Dev Days, you're going to start learning all of our email addresses from our presentations and LinkedIn accounts, and please use them. We love you guys. We want to make sure we're meeting your needs, and we want to hear from you. Thank you.
All right, and yes, someone else back there under the bright light that I keep accidentally looking at.
Thank you. What tools do you recommend using for building multiplayer applications on top of MRTK3?
I mean, I think right now, I think Photon is the most popularly used one right now, and so I would suggest using that. Do you have any other suggestions?
Photon's the bomb. I mean,
this is not brought to you by Photon. I would just, Photon is the bomb. So.
We're always trying to figure out how to for our new solutions to make collaboration easier. And so just keep an eye out for future possible offerings. But the Photon is still absolutely the best solution out there that we've identified. So
Thanks.
Oh, right there in the back as well.
Hello. Just wondering, with the ability to customize the UI, kind of skin it, and any kind of performance improvements that you guys have you done any tests to kind of give a baseline of saying, well, this is how shiny and awesome but performance heavy the UI was before, but now if you really wanted to claw some of that performance back and use it for your content, have you guys run any numbers to kind of see how much more you could get back in your scene, or any kind of numbers?
Finn would have been perfect. He just ducked out. But Hoff.
Go get him, Hoff.
Yeah, it's becoming an ongoing joke. We have a task for really firm numbers between V2 and V3 so we can tell the story of how much better the performance is. So we are planning to offer explicit information around the performance. Certainly through empirical evidence, we're seeing a lot of improvement, in part because our commitment to actually adopt Unity's own layers to the extent possible means there's much less between Unity and your app. And so, and also the modularization of the components means you're only pulling in and ever lighting up the very thing that you ever need to use. And our team, our team is absolutely committed to perf. We actually had a large engagement with Unity to help analyze the entire perf of the entire MRTK3 package, and they gave us a crazy amount of feedback. And I as the leader of our team was just, I was so proud of the team for how much they've already created a high performing package. Like there's honestly the perf challenges that they found were in that kind of 2 sigma range away from all the harder stuff that they've already taken care of. So yeah, so I don't have an exact answer to your question as far as if you do these things you'll increase your perf, but I think a lot of you in this room probably already know the basics. But I'll take that as note that is of interest, and we'll make sure that at some point we have some more documentation around how to optimize perf. And I know that we've created stuff in the past and all that would still apply, like using LODs and all the other stuff that you already know about.
I have some online questions. With all of the tools and services Microsoft now offers surrounding MR, is there going to be a certification track for these technologies? It'd be fun to work towards earning a Microsoft mixed reality certification.
Yeah, that's come up a few times, and I absolutely think that would be an awesome thing to offer. We don't have that on our roadmap at the moment, but I'll also take that to note, because I do think that would be an awesome thing to offer to make sure that you are getting recognized as being competent in this area.
And I have one other online question, which is MRTK3 compatible with newer versions of Unity?
Yes. We already run competently on 2021. There are just bandwidth challenges for testing across absolutely every version, especially while we're still in preview and working really hard on wrapping it up. But yeah, we know it already works on 2021, and we're committed to continuing to support future versions. The reality is now that it's componentized, a lot of them will work on older versions. We just are choosing to recommend 2020.3 LTS as our minimum. And that does not necessarily mean it doesn't work on earlier versions. We just need to dedicate our resources more towards the future and less to the past.
Thank you.
All right, I got one more question up here. I feel like this might be the last one.
Well, let's see. Grace, in the beginning of the presentation, you talked about how cross-platform is becoming a central pillar of MRTK, and we see that even shifting from the name from Holo Toolkit to MRTK and supporting also additional devices such as the Quest we just saw. I'm interested in seeing what other devices do you have in your roadmap to fully support, and devices such as AR that could benefit from spectator view? And what are the plans in MRTK3 to fully take advantage of them?
Great question. Right now, we support all OpenXR devices. Correct, Hoff?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, we've put a lot of resources into OpenXR to make sure that anybody who adopts OpenXR will pretty much instantly out of the box be compatible. Like we talk, every single month we have a conversation with Leap Motion to make sure that we support their devices, they're adopting it. Same with Magic Leap. So and that's all on the 3D spatial side of the equation. We also are committed to 2D devices, ARKit, ARCore, making sure that there's responsive design. We don't support all of this yet, but one of my missions for our team is to make sure that you can deploy to 2D and 3D with pretty much ideally no effort, where it has responsive design techniques that go across 2 and 3D. Out of the box, it works. It doesn't mean we do a lot of the heavy lifting for you yet, but our commitment is to continue to try to go up that value chain and do more and more of the heavy lifting for those pieces of the puzzle that are kind of underneath the value you're trying to deliver to your client.
All right, so that's it for the presentation Q&A section. We're obviously still going to be around, so feel free if you have any other questions to find us in the hallway, ask us any questions. If you want to give me feedback on what your favorite lunch item was, I'm open to learning about that as well. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm pretty excited. But yeah, thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, Bruce and Hoff and Grace, for you guys for helping us with the questions, and Grace for helping me present up here today. This is awesome. I appreciate you, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, everyone. Join us for lunch next door.